Welcome back to Iraqi Dinar Hub, where we move past the confusion of global financial chatter and deliver the most relevant insights surrounding currency assets that usually drift under the radar of mainstream reporting. Think for a moment about the forgotten items tucked away in a drawer or buried beneath souvenirs in an old keepsake boxes, especially the leftover foreign currency you brought back from a long-ago trip. For most people, these colorful notes are nothing more than nostalgic tokens, pleasant reminders of a vacation that hold no real value in everyday life. It's easy to treat them as insignificant scraps of paper destined to stay hidden and ignored. Yet there is a mounting narrative in the global financial arena indicating that one particular currency, long dismissed as a novelty, may now be positioned on the edge of a historic shift. We are referring to an asset that could experience a dramatic surge in value, one that may defy the assumptions of the average observer and disrupt the conventional view that such notes are worthless outside their home borders. It's understandable why the public meets these ideas with skepticism. Claims of currencies multiplying in value by 10, 20, or even 100 times usually belong in the realm of fairy tales or promotional hype, targeting overly hopeful investors. We've all heard the stories of individuals who waited endlessly for a payoff that never arrived, leading many to treat the entire notion of currency revaluation as pure fantasy. But we must pause and consider a crucial question. What if the present scenario is fundamentally different from the rumor cycles of the past? What if the signals emerging today are not fueled by online speculation or unfounded excitement, but are instead grounded in verifiable indicators from credible segments of the financial system? When central banks, international monitoring bodies, and institutional financial platforms start moving in alignment, it suggests that the phenomenon we're witnessing is authentic, coordinated, and potentially imminent. Today, we are shifting our lens slightly away from our usual focus on the Iraqi dinar to examine another currency that has quietly lingered behind the scenes of global speculation. The Vietnamese Dong, or VN, often overshadowed by the dinar, has increasingly captured the attention of serious analysts, seasoned traders, and global regulatory institutions. For years, the Dong has been considered significantly undervalued, yet discussions surrounding its possible correction remain scattered whispers within niche circles. That environment has changed sharply in recent months. We are now observing emerging evidence from sources with genuine influence in international economics, including regional financial authorities and institutional liquidity systems. These evolving signals reveal that Vietnam is gradually moving away from the static monetary posture it maintained for decades, and the implications of this shift could be substantial for currency holders. To understand why this moment is different from previous waves of speculation, we must look beyond charts and explore Vietnam's structural transformation. Over the last 2 decades, Vietnam has undergone a profound economic evolution, one that ranks among the most impressive development stories in modern times. What was once a nation defined largely by agriculture, rice fields, and small-scale farming has rapidly transformed into a diversified, globally competitive industrial hub. This transformation wasn't accidental. It emerged from deliberate, aggressive political reforms and foreign investment strategies aimed at modernizing infrastructure, education, and manufacturing capabilities. Vietnam has positioned itself as a prime destination for global production, attracting major corporations seeking stable alternatives within Asia. The evidence of this growth can be seen in the vast network of supply chains that now stretch across Vietnam. Tire industries, electronics, textiles, furniture, manufacturing, high-tech agriculture, and more have taken root and are continuously expanding. Leading global technology firms have invested billions into factories, research facilities, and logistics systems throughout the country. As a result, Vietnam's workforce has grown more skilled, trade agreements have multiplied, and the country's integration into global commerce has deepened significantly. Yet despite this impressive economic strength, the official value of the Vietnamese Dong has remained artificially suppressed. This undervaluation was a strategic choice by policymakers designed to maintain inexpensive export prices, encourage investment, and ensure consistent trade surpluses. However, the global financial environment is changing, and the pressure for more accurate currency valuation is becoming increasingly unavoidable. We are now seeing signs that the era of artificially low valuation may be nearing its end. To comprehend the scale of what may be developing, one must look into the hidden layers of the financial world systems that remain unseen by the general public. Within elite banking networks and institutional platforms, not accessible to retail customers, internal discussion has increased alongside noticeable adjustments in proprietary systems. High-level banks maintain confidential rate sheets that often update before public Forex markets, reflecting anticipated changes based on liquidity behaviors and policy signals. Recently, reports suggest that several of these internal documents have started revealing unusual movements involving the Vietnamese Dong. These indicators are closely monitored by analysts who study early positioning before valuation changes, and they imply that financial systems may be preparing for an adjustment. Even more intriguing than these general indicators are the specific projections that have reportedly leaked among institutional circles. Some of these internal models hint at potential post-adjustment values, showing extraordinary gains from the Dong's current level, with certain forecasts testing figures equivalent to over 1 unit to nearly 2.5 units per thousand VND. Simultaneously, reports suggest that Vietnam's digital banking infrastructure is undergoing technical updates to support recalibrated balances, rounding corrections, and denomination adjustments. Such technical overhauls are rarely initiated without a clear underlying purpose. When these system updates are combined with internal government planning documents outlining fiscal realignment strategies, the classic preconditions for a country preparing to adjust its currency become increasingly evident. Importantly, Vietnam is not making these changes in isolation. The evolving monetary alignment appears closely linked with the guidance of major international institutions such as the International Monetary Fund. The IMF is well known for helping nations transition into updated exchange rate frameworks, and they have been actively working with Vietnam on reserve strengthening, debt balancing, and inflation containment. These discussions are not random. They're standard components of preparing an economy for a shift away from artificially suppressed currency conditions. The IMF typically moves quietly, using structured evaluations and long-term programs to guide countries into more transparent monetary systems, and their current involvement strongly points to a significant transition. In parallel, the Asian Development Bank has been working closely with Vietnam on monetary modernization, financial infrastructure upgrades, and capital flow stabilization, initiatives that align precisely with the requirements for a currency to approach fair valuation. When multiple international organizations support interconnected policy upgrades within the same time frame, it is rarely coincidental. Instead, it signals a coordinated effort to move a developing economy into a higher tier of global financial integration. The combined influence of regulatory restructuring, digital modernization, and shifting reserve strategies suggests that Vietnam's long-term monetary agenda has entered a transitional phase. Should a formal revaluation occur, its impact would extend far beyond Vietnam's borders, likely influencing valuation approaches across other emerging markets. For individuals who quietly accumulated Vietnamese Dong years ago, whether out of curiosity or as a diversification strategy, the practical question now becomes, what does this mean for you? If a revaluation unfolds at the scale some projections suggest, the potential upside could be substantial, especially for those holding larger denominations. However, the path to accessing that value will likely be more complex than walking into a neighborhood bank. Reports from across North America, Europe, and Asia indicate that specialized redemption centers have begun preparing internal procedures for potential VND exchanges. These facilities are not standard bank counters. They're specialized operations built to process large foreign currency transactions under strict compliance guidelines. It is highly likely that any future exchange will be tightly regulated. The era of casual, anonymous currency exchanges is disappearing. These centers will require appointments and will enforce rigorous know-your-customer and anti-money laundering protocols. Requirements may include proof of purchase, authenticity certificates, and documentation verifying lawful acquisition. In some cases, individuals may undergo verification checks to confirm the legitimacy of the transaction.